Check, check. All right. Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Excellent. Yeah, for some reason, whenever I open Zoom to do a lecture, it tells me that my computer audio is not working properly, even though it is. Weird. So, hi, hope you all had a good weekend. Our slides today are maybe a little shorter than usual, but they're full of lots of material that we're going to try to cover today relating to theories of justification. And it turns out that my cat has decided to join us. Come here, buddy. Here he is. So, you may see a cat today, and that's my buddy Yo-Yo. So let's see. Let's share the screen. What are you doing over there, sir? Hello. Hello, sir. He is indeed a distinguished gentleman. I would let him teach the class, but I don't think we would be able to cover absolutely everything if I left it to him because he tends to have a short attention span. Isn't that right? Yes, sir. I think he misses me because I was out last night wrapping up the animation festival. Right, share screen. That's what we're doing. So, oh, hi. Okay, so as soon as I get everything out of the way here, we can begin. Yeah, critters are a nice start. Um, Not now. Microsoft Word is always giving me these new suggestions about what it can do because I've got a new computer here. It thinks I haven't done anything on it yet. Anyway, today we're covering the chapter on theories of justification, which is chapter 3. Actually, we're just going to cover the first half. Um, so we began the class by talking about skepticism to sort of situate ourselves when it comes to primarily epistemology, but also a little bit of metaphysics and a little bit of mind. Skepticism, of course, means to inquire, or nowadays in everyday parlance, it means to doubt. And the reason why we do it in epistemology is to be certain about what we can know. Why we apply skepticism. We want to be certain about what we can or cannot know. And we saw that in the work of Hume and Descartes, but especially Descartes. Then we talked about what knowledge actually is. And that's when we got to the justified true belief account, some of the problems with it. Hello, sir. There's your tail. And some of the problems with the justified true belief account, Gettier cases, and what they tell us about what is wrong with that account, perhaps. Oh, and reliabilism, too. Now we're going to spend more time on particular theories of justification. So if we do need to have our true beliefs justified in order for them to count for something, maybe it's not certain enough for some people to count as knowledge. Well, we want to know what it is that does the work of justification. So recall, if you will, the idea of justification. When we have a belief, even if it doesn't meet that standard of certainty to be called knowledge, we still want our beliefs to be supported by reasons, good reasons, or good evidence. And if we had a theory of justification, that would tell us what exactly it means for a belief to be well justified. It should lay out what philosophers would call the necessary and sufficient conditions for justified belief. So necessity and sufficiency is something you see a lot of in philosophy. The idea is that if something is necessary, so if A is necessary for B, then it's not possible to have B without A. For example, in order to be a cat, you must be a mammal. You cannot be a cat if you are not a mammal. So being a mammal is a necessary condition for being a cat. The sufficiency claim is that if A is sufficient for B, then if you have A, that's enough to conclude that B. So, for example, Queen Elizabeth II, by knowing that she is a queen or was a queen, that is sufficient for me to conclude that she's a woman, right? So that's okay. Bye, Yo-Yo. So that's necessity and sufficiency. So we want to know the necessity, the necessary and sufficient conditions for justified belief. And what are the motivations here? Well, we want our beliefs to have what we could think of as epistemic credibility. How much do our beliefs have epistemic credibility wise? Why are they credible? Right? Like, say I have a certain belief, like this is a belief that I actually I do sort of entertain, and that belief is that there's a skunk living under my front porch. You might want to know why I believe that, or perhaps my landlord or my pest control person would want to know why I believe that. They want to know what my reasons for holding that belief are. And reasons might be that I regularly smell it or that I've seen it going to and from underneath my porch, right? So, how credible is my belief? You can gauge how credible it is by evaluating the evidence that I offer for that belief. Josh believes there's a skunk under his porch. Why does he believe that? Well, he's seen it, he's smelled it. Perhaps he's seen some other evidence, like some kind of animal scat or something, or evidence that the skunk has been bringing food under there and eating it. And you might decide that I have a credible belief. My belief that there is a skunk under my porch has some epistemic credibility. And by giving reasons, we we might provide some epistemic credibility, but we also want to know how our beliefs come to have any credibility in the first place. We could call this initial epistemic credibility. And the question here is, are there some foundational beliefs upon which my other beliefs are built? This might remind you of Descartes. And we'll get to that in a moment. Descartes is, by the way, very interested in the idea that we have foundational beliefs upon which we build our other beliefs. The second motivation, we want to know the aim of our justified beliefs. So why is it better that I have a justified true belief than a true but unjustified belief, right? This is kind of where the conversation ends up at the end of the Meno, Plato's dialogue that was mentioned in the previous chapter. Socrates says, well, you want, and I'm paraphrasing here, of course, Socrates maintains that we want to have true beliefs that are fastened down by a reason, because otherwise those beliefs might wander away from a man's mind, he says. So people have beliefs. If they're not tied down by reason of a cause, those beliefs are given to change very easily. So, those sorts of lines of thinking show us that justification is connected to knowledge in an important way. If I have beliefs that are justified with good evidence or good reasons, that means they're more likely to be true. Whether that means my beliefs are certain in the sense that some people want, whether they meet that standard of knowledge is questionable, perhaps, because after all, we've seen that this is what Gettier cases show us. Maybe justified true belief account of knowledge doesn't really work because there are instances where we have justified true beliefs which we would not agree meet the standard for knowledge. Of course, there's other approaches like reliabilism, right? Justification on reliabilism means that we've just arrived at our true beliefs via reliable ways. Our evidence comes to us via reliable belief forming processes. The evidence for our beliefs is part of that process. Part of forming a belief is a matter of having reliable processes which track good reasons or good evidence for our beliefs, right? But anyway, let's bracket that question of certainty. We often give reasons to support our beliefs, and often those reasons are themselves other beliefs. And there are lots of other beliefs that we can use this way, right? There are, for example, perceptual beliefs. These are beliefs that we form on the basis of our perceptions. So they're not our perceptions themselves. That's important to remember. But a perceptual belief might be something that I form on the basis of what I see or hear, what I taste or smell or touch, right? For example, I have a sensation right now of the leaves in the trees outside rustling. So on that basis, I might form the perceptual belief that the wind is blowing the leaves in the trees. So the sensation itself is not the belief, but it's the foundation for the belief. And then that perceptual belief can form as a basis for further beliefs. Similarly, I have this visual sensation of this colorful coffee mug in front of me. So I form the belief that there is a colorful coffee mug in front of me. Again, the perceptual belief is not the perception itself, but the perception serves as a basis for forming that belief. We also have background beliefs. So these are beliefs that we have picked up over time, like a sort of set of beliefs about how the world and different aspects of it work. So, my belief about where various Canadian cities are, or where various countries in the world are located, those would be something like background beliefs. My beliefs about, I don't know, table manners, what's appropriate to do while dining at the kitchen table. Those would be part of my background beliefs, right? All of those things that we sort of pick up as we go through life and use to understand the world on a regular basis are background beliefs. And of course, there are also beliefs that we form on the basis of testimony, right? This is actually very important and something that I think that at least as far as I understand, something that philosophers have really started to emphasize in the 20th century. That is testimony. In fact, my doctoral supervisor, David Matheson of Carleton University, is an epistemologist himself who is quite interested in testimony. So if you continue studying philosophy and you have an interest in this, Professor Matheson is certainly the philosopher whose brain you ought to pick about testimony. So these are beliefs we form based on what we're told. Beliefs I form on the basis of perhaps what I hear from an expert, what I read on the news or in the news, what I hear from coworkers, friends, perhaps. And testimony may be reliable, it may not be reliable. Likewise with your background beliefs or your perceptual beliefs. What we need to do here is work out which sources provide reliable evidence for our beliefs, which sources give us true beliefs that can serve as a basis for justifying other beliefs. And there are two broad approaches here. One is foundationalism. That's one theory of justification. The other theory is called coherence theory, or sometimes coherentism. So on foundationalism, what happens is that we have a set of foundational beliefs which do not actually need justification themselves, and we build up our other beliefs upon those foundational beliefs. On coherence theory or coherentism, our belief system is more like a spider web. There's no fundamental or basic part of the web. The entire web supports the entire web. So likewise, on coherence theory, we'll have a system of beliefs, and all of the beliefs in that system mutually support one another. And there's no single belief or single set of beliefs which is foundational, like there is in foundationalism. So today we're going to focus on foundationalism. Well, we'll get to that, but it really depends on which theory of foundationalism we're talking about. If we're talking about, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but if we're talking about strong foundationalism, then our basic beliefs have to be infallible. They have to be the sort of beliefs that it's impossible, where we cannot be mistaken. Modest foundationalism is okay with fallibilism because we'll just change our basic belief. If it turns out that the belief is wrong or it's poorly justified, we can simply modify one of our basic beliefs, and that's acceptable for a modest foundationalist. But I'll explain that in more detail as we proceed. So, as you may have guessed, Rene Descartes is a well-recognized foundationalist. We didn't read the Meditations directly, but if we had, we would have begun here. This is from the first meditation. It is now some years since I detected how many were the false beliefs that I had from my earliest youth admitted as true, and how doubtful was everything I had since constructed on this basis. And from that time, I was convinced that I must once and for all seriously undertake to rid myself of all the opinions which I had formerly accepted, and commence to build anew from the foundation, if I wanted to establish any firm and permanent structure in the sciences. So Descartes says, I've formed a lot of beliefs based on other beliefs which themselves might be doubtful. So I need to demolish all my opinions and build anew from the foundation. Emphasis is added by Crumley here. Find some secure beliefs that he can build up all his knowledge again from. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Milan? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing, but you're absolutely correct. The cogito is a foundational belief that Descartes did not think needed justification. I don't have it written out exactly that way, but yeah, what I have here says that even if Descartes is mistaken about his senses revealing the way the world really is, and even if there's some evil genius out there who's deceiving him about truths that he thinks are necessary, like triangles having three sides, Descartes can still be certain about one thing. As long as he's thinking and doubting and perhaps even being deceived, he can be sure that he exists. So that's his foundational belief. And as I mentioned a moment ago, there are two versions of this: strong foundationalism, modest foundationalism. They both differ in what kind of beliefs are reasonably allowed to count as foundational, but they both share a motivation in common, and that is what we call the regress argument. So what is the regress argument? Well, if we justify beliefs by appealing to other beliefs, does that just go on forever, right? I mean, maybe I believe there's a cat on my couch or perhaps on my desk. I would justify this belief perhaps by appealing to a perceptual belief or maybe background belief. So my perceptual beliefs might be formed on the basis of my perception that there's a cat on the couch. My background beliefs would be things like, I know what cats look like. I know cats versus dogs, for example, right? I was correctly educated when it comes to cats. I know that they're quadrupedal corpuscular mammals. I would never see a dog and mistake it for a cat, right? Um, but these beliefs also require justification, right? I can't trust my perceptual belief unless I also believe that I can trust what I see. So that's another belief, that another justifying belief that's at play. I can't justify my knowledge of what cats look like, what their nature is, unless I also believe that I was correctly taught about cats. So that's another justifying belief at play. Is it just beliefs all the way down, as it were? Is there a worry of an infinite regress here? An unending process where each belief is justified by another belief and another belief and another belief and another belief and another belief, on and on ad infinitum? I'm going to type this in the chat, actually. Ad infinitum. That's Latin for to infinity. And I misspelled infinity. My bad. Yes, to infinity and beyond, exactly. Because if it keeps going on and on forever, well, that's a problem. It might be good if you're Buzz Lightyear. It's not good if you're a philosopher. Yeah, like how could we trust any of our beliefs if they were just going doop 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 beliefs all the way down, on and on and on, always justified, 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 but we're never getting to a secure foundation. So an infinite regress in philosophy, or I mean, even in mathematics or logic, when we have an infinite regress or something approaching infinity, we know we've identified a problem. So we need to come up with some options to identify what to do here. How do we stop our regress? Well, option one, the regress never ends. It really is an infinite regress. We can't have that. So no option one. Get out of here, option one. Option two, the regress ends, but it ends with an unjustified belief. Also not acceptable if you're a foundationalist. You need the regress to end with a justified belief. Option three is a circular option. One belief might depend on another, which depends on yet another, and so on and so forth, until we circle back to our original belief. This is superficially similar to the coherentist option that we'll look at on Wednesday, but it's not exactly the same. But do recall that whenever we run into a bit of circular reasoning, that is also a problem, right? Because you need outside justification, right? It's like David Hume and the uniformity principle that we learned about. The universe is roughly the same everywhere. So the future should be like the past. That sounds like a deductive principle, but it's actually worked out from induction. So every time I've, gone out and existed in the world, the future has resembled the past. The sun has always risen in the morning, just like it did yesterday. So you form the uniformity principle, but how do you justify it? Well, with induction. You're trying to use inductive reasoning to justify induction, and that's circular. So that's a problem. So we can't have a circle. That leaves us with option four. The regress terminates at some basic belief or set of basic beliefs. These basic beliefs do not require justification. They would be infallible or self-evident or something like that. And that's why they can provide a secure foundation. Like Descartes' cogito, right? I am, I exist, or I think, therefore I am. So we can all see why options 1 and 3 are unacceptable. We had some comments in the chat. Yeah, like you can't really entertain that thought at those two beliefs at the same time. You can't believe that you exist and not exist, or you can't not believe that you exist while you're obviously existing, right? You can't be mistaken, Descartes would argue, about the fact that there's a you, an I, that exists. Some philosophers would dispute that, actually. Yeah, it would be a basic belief for Descartes, absolutely. The Buddhists would say, sure, you can be mistaken about that because the self is an illusion. Friedrich Nietzsche would probably say something similar as well. But let's not worry about that. But yeah, you can't, it's absurd to exist and then form the belief that you do not exist. I'm not saying people don't have that belief. There might be some people who do. They might be psychotic or just very, very incorrect. But yeah, that would be a basic belief. So everyone's clear on why the first three options are not good and why we need some kind of basic beliefs. And we're even starting to get an idea of what some basic beliefs would look like. So I think we're in good shape to proceed here. Let's go. So common features of foundationalist theories are that both strong and modest foundationalism commit to the existence of basic beliefs. We'll call these epistemically independent. They don't depend on other beliefs to be justified. So a basic belief could be a perceptual belief. I form the belief that the cat is on the mat because I perceive the cat lying on the mat. Now, not all foundationalists accept basic beliefs or accept perceptual beliefs as basic beliefs, but many do. And remember, my perception is not my perceptual belief, right? It's two different steps. So if I see the cat on the mat, if I have a visual experience or impression of the cat on the mat, that's my basis for forming my belief. Now, my perception that the cat is on the mat is not itself a belief, but it serves as the basis for my forming of the basic belief, namely about where the cat is, which is on the mat. So basic beliefs can be sources of justification, but are they justified without appealing to other beliefs? Well, that's the idea. And there are quite a variety depending on which functional or which foundationalist you ask. There are quite a variety. There's quite a variety of kinds of beliefs that could count as basic. Maybe perceptual beliefs. Memories could count as basic. If you have memory impressions. Again, memory impressions might not be beliefs themselves, but they might serve as the foundation of basic belief. This is not to say that some memories can't be beliefs. I mean, we remember our beliefs, right? So some of our beliefs are memories, and some of our beliefs may be basic. So we may have basic beliefs as memories, and we also, similar to the case with perceptual beliefs, we may also have memory impressions that serve as the basis for basic beliefs, right? Reasoning about or your own mental states. So we call those introspective beliefs, would also count as basic. So I believe that I am sleepy. I form a belief about my own mental state. I cannot be mistaken about that. A foundationalist would say, or some foundationalists would say, I can't be mistaken about how I feel. Not exactly true, depending on who you ask, but again, let's just run with the example. Another common feature at play here is that basic beliefs and non-basic beliefs are connected in a sort of inferential way, and these inferences are what justify the non-basic beliefs that are built upon the basic ones. So if we can trace a non-basic belief back to a basic belief or set of basic beliefs in the right kind of way, that's where our justification comes from. I would say that that's probably actually a background belief, because you've learned through time that, there are humans and there are animals and there are plants, and we are humans and those are plants over there, but you are not a plant, right? So that would be I would say that's actually a background belief. Sure, you can look at your hands and go, oh, these aren't leaves and branches, these are human hands. Therefore, I am not a plant. Um, but I think it's more likely that if you're asked, are you a human or a plant, you immediately answer, I'm a human, sir, because you have a set of background beliefs such that you know that you are this type of being and not that type of being. Well, how well justified is that belief, Jose? That's the question. So, um, so yeah, if a non-basic belief is connected to a basic belief in the right way, then it's well justified. Now, Descartes emphasizes a deductive connection between basic beliefs and non-basic beliefs. Well, that's what how do we judge the validity? That's what we're getting to now. So we judge the validity by asking how are the non-basic beliefs connected to the basic ones? So Descartes emphasized deductive connections. So he deduces from the cogito that he exists. He deduces, because he's a rationalist, he's using deductive reasoning. So deductive arguments are truth preserving, remember? So you start with truth premises and you follow the rules of reasoning. And if you do both of those things, you're guaranteed to arrive at a true conclusion. So that's how Descartes gets from I exist to the mind and body are different substances, and I don't know the world via the senses, and God exists, and all of the other stuff he concludes later on in the meditations, right? But a lot of people today agree that inductive connections are fine as well. So always remember, deductive arguments are truth preserving, and inductive arguments are inferential based on like what you observe in the world. When we distinguish which kinds of connections are preferred, we also distinguish between strong and modest foundationalism. So as you may have guessed, strong foundationalists want deductive connections between basic beliefs and non-basic beliefs. Modest foundationalists accept both. They accept deductive connections and inductive connections. As we'll see, modest foundationalism also adopts fallibilism, the idea that we can be mistaken. Strong foundationalism is infallibilist. So if you remember from chapter 1, the idea of infallibility, the idea that something cannot be wrong or mistaken, a strong foundationalist wants their basic beliefs to be infallible. And that's not the case with modest foundation. Modest foundationalism is fallibilist, which means further evidence, acquiring further beliefs might overturn some justification we used to hold, but that we don't hold now. Imagine you're not from Canada, or maybe some of you are not from Canada, right? So I don't know if you're from outside of the country, maybe you know somebody who believes that Toronto is the capital of Canada. Many people from outside of Canada, after all, Canada is a big country with a small population, and maybe people haven't heard of too many of our major cities. Maybe they've heard of Toronto and Montreal, but not Ottawa. So maybe they formed the belief that Toronto is the capital of Canada. But then they acquire further evidence. They learn that it's actually Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. Well, they can just modify their belief because their justification for holding that belief maybe it's some kind of heuristic. Maybe they've just heard about Toronto so much and never heard of Ottawa, so that they infer Toronto must be the capital. It's the city I hear about the most. It's the largest city in Canada. It must be the capital, right? So they make that inference. But then upon traveling to Canada and hearing reliable testimony from Canadians or reading some maps or some tourist guides, they form the belief that it's in fact Ottawa that is the capital. And that's fine for a modest foundationalist, and that shows us what fallibilism is all about. Well, maybe I think that's the worry that Descartes had, right? We want certain, like when we have knowledge, do we want it to just be good enough to allow us to get by in the world? That's probably what a modest foundationalist would say. But a strong foundationalist wants certainty, right? Like absolute certainty. Because they're worried about, yeah, there is a worry about relativism. We don't want to be relativists. Whether modest foundationalism leads to relativism is another question, though, because, we can modify our beliefs based on new evidence. And we'll still the key difference is when we do that, we can still treat those modified beliefs as foundational beliefs or basic beliefs, whereas a strong foundationalist would say, well, if we had a false belief, it never was a basic belief. It never counted as a basic belief, right? Um, well, I don't know, because like belief about the capital of Canada isn't something you can reach deductively, right? It's a matter of induction. It's a matter of observing the world and seeing where it is on a map or visiting the place or hearing some reliable testimony, right? So um but I do think that a strong foundationalist would have a small set of foundational beliefs, almost like a mathematician, like like um like Euclid's geometry, right? We'd have a few axioms and then deduce a whole bunch of stuff about geometry from those axioms. Um, a strong foundationalist reminds me of that. A few foundational beliefs that justify all kinds of other beliefs. The justifications just have to be deductive in nature. So let's look a little closer at each of these. Strong foundationalism. Actually, how are we doing for time? Oh, we're doing pretty good. Strong foundationalism is sometimes called Cartesian foundationalism or infallible foundationalism. And the idea here is that our basic beliefs, they've got to be beliefs about which we cannot be mistaken. And also, as I said before, justification is only transmitted through deductive inferences. If we have a belief about which we can be mistaken, or we justify a belief through an inductive inference, or both, well, those don't count as basic beliefs. We can do that. Sure, we can do that, but they don't count as basic beliefs. And we might include basic beliefs like introspective beliefs here, the beliefs about your own mental states. This is certainly what Descartes was talking about when he said, I am, I exist. This is necessarily true whenever I think it and conceive of it. So that's a belief about his mental state, namely what he's thinking about. And consider this, and we'll circle back to this on the final slide, but consider being mistaken about the color of a dress. I misperceive the color of a dress. I think it's one color when it's actually not, on the basis of my perception. But my introspective belief is how the dress seemed to me. I cannot be mistaken about that. So that's an introspective belief. Yeah, that's right. The dress. We're doing the dress. This literally is okay. Let me read Omran's question. That's right. We're going to get there though. Let's not get ahead of I don't want to get ahead of myself. All our beliefs right now are relatively true to us, never absolute truth, meaning that if we consider stealing and cheating to be morally wrong right now, we might actually be wrong about that because everything is relative, right? Well, that's not what a strong foundationalist is going for, right? A strong foundationalist wants certainty in their basic principles. And then, since they're reasoning using induction, or no, deduction, which is truth preserving, they can be certain that all of their subsequent beliefs will be true and well justified. But introspective beliefs, they can be foundational in the sense that we can't possibly be mistaken about their content, right? So what that means is, just to use a morality example, like Omran said, maybe you believe murder is okay. It's not. We agree that murder is wrong, right? But say you believed that it was all right to murder. Your belief would be wrong, but you couldn't be mistaken about the content of it. You could not be mistaken about the fact that you believe it's okay to murder, even if the belief is false. You can't be mistaken about what the belief is about. So that's what that means. It's not like a gateway to relativism. It's just like, I might see an animal under my porch and form the belief that it's a skunk. And actually, it's just a cat. So I have a false belief about seeing a skunk, but I can't be wrong about how it seemed to me. So I see the worry about relativism, but that's not really what this is saying, right? This is saying that, if I see a cat and misperceive a skunk, I am not wrong about how it seemed to me that there was a skunk, even though I'm wrong about it being a skunk, right? It's not, yeah, I would say that it's you can't be mistaken about the content of your belief. So what the belief is about. So if I see a blue and black dress and I perceive it as white and gold, I'm incorrect about the color of the dress. But I can't be correct. I can't be incorrect about my perception. Like, I saw it as white and gold. I can't be wrong about that. That's an introspective belief, even though I'm wrong about what color the dress actually is. And for those not familiar with what I'm talking about, we'll get there on the final slide. This book was actually published the year after the dress phenomenon on the internet went viral. So I don't know if Crumley includes this dress example because of that, or if he just made it up. But it's interesting. So these introspective beliefs are self-presenting or self-evident. But they could be controversial. I've said let's discuss at the bottom, but we've already kind of discussed this. A lot of you had, some of you raised worries about relativism, which is good because we don't want relativism, right? Because we want certainty. We're philosophers. We want certainty. We want knowledge. If truth is relative, we can't have certainty, right? And that's what we want. We also want, as Omran said, we want certainty with respect to, not just knowledge but also morality. We want to know what is right and what is wrong, right? When we say things like, oh, murder is wrong now, but it was okay thousands of years ago. Well, why was it okay then but it's not okay now, right? What are you talking about? So we don't want relativism. So modest foundationalism. Let's see here. So on modest foundationalism, you can have a basic belief, and consider it justified, even if subsequently, down the road, some evidence might present itself which undermines the justification of that belief. So if you're a modest foundationalist, you believe that basic beliefs only need to be fallibly justified. So that means that I have a belief, I have a basic belief, it's justified, but it's possible that I could be mistaken about it. That's okay if you're a foundationalist. The fact that you might be wrong about a belief doesn't mean that it cannot serve as a basic belief, because you can always revise the belief later and improve your set of basic beliefs. Also, justification doesn't have to just be transmitted deductively, it can also be transmitted inductively. Well, basic beliefs are justified, but not, they're independently justified. So we don't need any outside justification for a basic belief. A basic belief's like Descartes' cogito is sort of self-justified. So when I'm talking about justification here, if I'm talking about non-basic beliefs, it's the basic beliefs and our kind of reasoning that justifies non-basic beliefs. But basic beliefs, well, this really applies to all beliefs. Like all beliefs can be fallibly justified, which means that a basic belief could be mistaken, and we could revise it, and that's okay. You know, we just change our set of basic beliefs slightly. What other kinds of beliefs can we have as basic beliefs? A modest foundationalist might count perceptual beliefs, memory beliefs, beliefs arrived at a priori. They can all be basic beliefs. It's all good, basically. Yeah, that's fine. You just need a set of basic beliefs from which you can reason out further beliefs. If you have a basic belief that is that and some evidence presents itself and undermines your basic belief, you just alter it. Sure, it's not a basic belief anymore, but that's fine. You're just revising your entire set of basic beliefs, right? So I said earlier that we need some basis for our basis beliefs, and Audi, uh, well, you could think of it like if you're a modest foundationalist and you think you've got a basic belief and you're mistaken about it and it's not basic anymore, that's fine, because it's still a fallibilist approach, right? Fallibilism is acceptable if you're a modest foundationalist. If the basic beliefs are used to hold up other beliefs, we edit our base. Yeah, that's fine. That's what Descartes was worried about, right? And this happens. People have I mean, like this could happen if you're a scientist. Um, you might be a scientist who's committed to a certain belief. Like think about Albert Einstein was working at a time when we believed in when scientists used ideas like the luminiferous ether to explain how light propagated through the universe. Along comes Einstein and says light is travels at c, the universal constant. It's the fastest anything can go in the universe. 300,000 kilometers a second. That's the fastest anything can go. Light goes that speed, radiation, gravity, information. That's how fast anything can go, which means that physicists all over the world had to reevaluate their theories, right? Um, this kind of thing leads to a paradigm shift in science where we realize that perhaps one of our theories was wrong and it has to go. So, but that's not a bad thing in science, right? Scientists would be like okay with fallible beliefs. Um, likewise, there are people that go down like internet rabbit holes. They become radicalized on the internet, and maybe they acquire a whole bunch of false beliefs But when they start to question some of their basic beliefs, they realize that their whole other system of beliefs is wrong, and they escape the radicalization process. There are people who have, crises of faith, right? Some people are raised religious and then have a crisis of faith and leave the religion. Some people are raised non-religiously and then have a sort of crisis of faith and then join a religion, reevaluating all beliefs in the process. So belief change is fine. Like, I think I'm not with the strong foundationalists on this one. I want to be able to change my mind in light of new evidence, right? Yeah, there's a basic belief we live on Earth, but Einstein's dealing with things that are either very massive or very fast. Sort of on a cosmological scale, not on the scale of Newtonian physics, which is what we're more worried about here. The point I'm trying to emphasize is just that, sometimes we have to change our beliefs. Sometimes we have to change our basic beliefs and our basic assumptions. To a modest foundationalist, that's fine, because it gets us closer to how the world really is. That's the job of our beliefs, right? To mentally represent the world as accurately as possible, to represent the world as close to the way it really is as we can, right? Yeah. Well, you might have well, no, that's yeah. Well, no, a modest foundationalist could have um an infallible basic beliefs or necessary truths as a basic belief. They could still have those, but they're also okay with the possibility that some of their basic beliefs might not be infallible. No, that's not necessarily true. Um, it means that we're getting closer to the way the world is. It doesn't necessarily imply relativism. Think of Kant, right? Kant and his transcendental idealism. The mind has certain structures that allows us to perceive the world, but our perception of the world is always structured in such a way that we're just seeing appearances and we can never know the things in themselves. So we can kind of get close to the truth, but not to like the ultimate truth, because everything has to go through the mind and the senses first. Well, no, that's not necessarily where this has to go, right? Um, Neither of us could be right. Yeah, but the point is like, yeah, but that happens all the time, right? Whether you're a strong foundationalist or not, that happens all the time. But we all agree that there is a way that the world is, and we're trying to get closer to understanding how that is. Just because you're a modest foundationalist doesn't mean you're going to be a relativist. Relativism is its own thing, right? Yeah, like Jose says, it's about being okay with being wrong. And but Omran, what if you're wrong about, like, you can still be wrong about something you believe to be absolutely true, right? You might believe you have an infallible belief, but it may still be mistaken. How would we know? That's what these two approaches are about. How we know, how we come to know whether we are uh justified in what we think is true. True in the capital T sense, like true all over the universe, right? Well, the flat Earth is interesting because actually we've no if you were going back over 3,000 years, no educated person believed the Earth was flat. It's actually kind of a misnomer. I mean, whenever there's a lunar eclipse, and we can see the shadow of the Earth on the moon, we can see that it's round. So Aristotle reasoned on that basis that the Earth was a sphere. And then a few hundred years later, a Greek scientist named Eratosthenes came along and did an experiment where he actually showed empirically that the Earth was round. And he got very close to the right distance around the Earth, which is about 40,000 kilometers. That's 2,200 years ago he did that. So relativism is the idea that nothing is, we either can't know what's true or nothing is really true. Um, yeah, measuring the shadows at different latitudes. Exactly, Ryan. Yeah, relativism for Sam. Relativism is the idea that you know, the truth changes or that different things can be true for different people, right? And philosophers don't want that. Neither do scientists, right? We don't want we don't want that. We want to know the truth, capital T. We want to know how the world is. And remember, the world means everything. It doesn't just mean the planet Earth, it means everything. Kaylin, I think you're right. Yeah, it was um something about Christopher Columbus. But yeah, no, Columbus himself knew that the world was a sphere. Um, but he actually was wrong about the size of the sphere. He thought it was smaller. So if North America hadn't been in the way, he would have died at sea, right? He was just lucky because he was wrong about the size. But he did think the Earth was round. Absolutely. Um, nobody, but no, he didn't set out to prove it. Well, I would say that it's true that cheating and scamming people is wrong. A relativist would say maybe it's not wrong all the time, right? A relativist would say maybe I can cheat or scam somebody who's not part of my in group. So, like maybe, and this is one of the problems with like, prejudice and racism and stuff, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to cheat or scam somebody who looks like me, but someone else who's different from me, they're like an other. Who cares? Can do whatever I want, right? That's relativism. Or uh, one of the ancient Greek sophists said, "Man is the measure of all things, of existing things that they exist, and of non-existing things that they exist not." That's Protagoras, I think, who said that. That's relativism. Like, what kinds of things exist? We say what kinds of things exist, right? That's like the most relativist relativism ever. If you are stealing from Walmart, probably bad, but also maybe not. I don't know. Like, it depends what you think. Like, here's the other thing. When it comes to morality, it's different because there's a set of people that want absolute principles when it comes to morality. Something like the Ten Commandments, right? Like a religious thing, or set of religious rules. Or if you're Kant, maybe something like the categorical imperative. Um, but others say that we arrive at what's morally right through the use of reason. So it's not like there's a philosophical principle that tells us what's right and what's wrong. It's not like there's a list of rules that God comes up with that tells us what's right and wrong. Other people say, well, we use our reason to come up with what is right and wrong, which is not relativism because we are justifying the results of our reasoning, right? So that would be something like Aristotle with virtue ethics. But we're going down a rabbit hole. Yeah, that's exactly, yeah, Omran, that's what the Nazis did. The Nazis were like, we're the Aryans, we're the best. So we're awesome. And everyone else is inferior. So we have to kill them, right? If you're Jewish, if you're a communist, if you're gay or trans, if you are physically or mentally disabled, um, you had to be removed from the world. Um, and we see the problems that came with that, right? So, sorry, just to get back on track because I do want to finish up. Um, so Audi, a philosopher, says that some non-belief impression can serve as the basis for our basic belief. This is how basic belief is itself justified. This is kind of related to what I said before, right? I might have a perception of the cat on the mat, and that serves as something which underwrites my basic belief that the cat is on the mat. So we would say that basic beliefs are non-doxastic states. They're epistemically dependent on things that aren't beliefs. So I said like earlier, basic beliefs need to be justified, and a few of you had questions about that. Well, wait, they're basic. They don't need to be justified. Yeah, they don't need to be justified by other beliefs, but they need to be justified by something. They need to be supported by something. In this case, sensations, but they're not justified by other beliefs. So we call them non-doxastic. Doxa is ancient Greek. It means, like belief or opinion. It's the root of our word for orthodox, right? So anyway, basic beliefs are justified. They don't depend on other beliefs. They depend on something else. That's why, a perceptual belief counts as a basic belief, but the perception itself is not a belief. The non-doxastic sensation, which is your perception of the cat on the mat, supports the belief that the cat is on the mat. But your perception is not a belief. Your perceptual belief is a belief. The perception itself is not, right? Now, some of you have anticipated some of the criticisms here. Well, we've got our experiences and impressions and sensations, and maybe they can justify basic beliefs, but they're not beliefs themselves. Now, since they are not beliefs themselves, they don't require justification. So my perception of the cat on the mat justifies my perceptual belief that the cat is on the mat, but that perception doesn't require justification. But hang on, if my perceptions and impressions and sensations are supposed to play this epistemic role, namely justifying my basic beliefs, then I need to make sure that my experience and impressions and sensations are also epistemically credible. After all, like if I have a visual sensation, it only provides epistemic support for my belief if it's a reliable source of information. So how do we know that our experiences and our impressions and our sensations are reliable? Where do they get their epistemic credibility from? On the one hand, if we tried to search for the epistemic credibility of our experiences and sensations and so forth, we might run into another infinite regress. And that's the whole thing we were trying to avoid in the first place here. Yeah, we might be back to skepticism or back to an infinite regress. It's not a good thing. We don't want that. But on the other hand, if we just say, maybe our beliefs, maybe our sensations, impressions, and experiences are not epistemically credible, then they can't serve as justification for a basic belief. Now, a lot of foundationalists say, hey, this is just part of the game. This is part of what it means to come to have beliefs. We have sensory interactions that produce sensations. Sensations can lead to basic beliefs. And by virtue of these interactions, our beliefs usually turn out to be true. Not always. It depends on how well our sensory systems are working, how well our brains are working, whether the environment is easy to navigate or not. So these things usually turn out to be true. Usually. Now we're back to the dress. Everyone have a look at the dress. I don't know if this will work here, but what color is this dress? Maybe it'll look a particular way on this screen, but I'm curious. What color is the dress? All right, awesome. So some of you really are seeing it as a different color. White and gold, blue and black. There's even a blue and gold in there. Yeah. Purple and gray, what? So for those of you who see this dress as white and gold, in real life, this dress is black and blue. I see it as white and gold. Oh, sorry, Jose. It's how? Oh, okay. All right. It switches. Oh, incredible. That's pretty cool. Yeah, this is the black and blue one that I'm showing you. Yeah, no, I know. It's crazy. I know. I know. It's isn't it nuts? Yeah, this dress is black and blue. It's a wedding dress that was ordered in 2015, and I think the story is that the woman who purchased, or the woman was getting married, and her mom had to go pick up the dress and sent a picture of the dress, and it was like, what? This is the wrong color. I ordered black and blue, and it's gold and white, and they posted a picture on the internet and it blew up overnight. It had millions of views on Twitter. Um, yeah. Huh. Curious. It also might depend on the lighting conditions that you view the photograph in. Um, you completely rejected, does that leave you? Yeah, if you rejected perception, you might have to go with pure deduction, but I don't. If I squint, can maybe let me try squinting. No, it's still gold and white. So weird, huh? So weird. So, yes, this dress, the real dress is black and blue, but a lot of people perceived it as white and gold. Um, so it went viral, and it sparked a big debate on the internet about not only what the true color of the dress was, but a lot of discussion in neuroscience and philosophy circles about the nature of perceptual experience, how our perceptions work, how the brain perceives color. So our sensations can lead us to um, false beliefs. Yeah, it probably has a lot to do with lighting and also probably what people's brains do with it. But the point is, our sensations can lead us to form false beliefs. I can have a particular sensation of this dress where, I see it as white and gold, and I form the belief that the dress is white and gold. But that would be a false belief. The dress is not white and gold. The dress is blue and black. Yeah, yeah, if we change the brightness of my screen, maybe I'd perceive it differently. Yeah. Well, it means that I think by and large we can rely on our perception of the world, but we need to be aware of the ways in which it can go wrong, right? Because our senses are not perfect, right? Their job is to get things mostly right. But as the dress illustrates, sometimes they don't, right? Yeah, maybe if I change the lighting, I can change it. And there are videos that explain how lighting plays a role in this and what our brains do with this information, right? So I will leave that to neuroscience, cog sci, um, uh, uh, thing, um, classes like that, if you'd like that explanation. Maybe, maybe though, we don't need to find. Yeah. I mean, I do. That's the color that it appears to me. But yeah, there are some good videos on YouTube that explain it. You have to be careful when learning about science and philosophy on YouTube, but I think there are some good sources out there. Um, Hank Green probably has a video about the dress. SciShow. You guys know Hank Green. You got all the kids know Hank Green. Um, he's probably got a video about this. Um, I'm sure somebody does. So, check it out if you want. Well, it depends. Milan, it depends. Like you can take that road if you want. Um, you can be a strong foundationalist if you wish. It's up to you. Yeah, it could depend on how attuned you are to certain environments. Um, no, I don't see blue and black as white and gold regularly, just in this case. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, it's a combination of the lighting in the picture and what individual brains do with the picture, because everybody's brain is a little bit different, right? Anyway, feel free to continue discussing the dress in the Discord server if you want, right? I'm really glad to see so much discussion about it um, in the chat as well. It's one of those things that gets people really like, whoa, what? What are you talking about? You see the dress as a different color than me, right? Because we think we all see the world the same way, right? Well, not necessarily. Yeah, Yanni and Laurel is basically the dress, but with sound. That's really great. Thank you for pointing that out. It's like the dress, but with sound. Um, yeah, go ahead. A quick question about the first quiz, and then I will wrap up this lecture. I'll just wait for you to type your question there. Okay, so it's a take home test, so it's not on a particular day, rather the week of October 13th. So I let me check my calendar. So on the week of October 13th, yeah, so that's the second week in October. So you'll basically have the entire week to do that test. Um, and it's take home, it's done online, and you have the entire week to begin. But once you begin, there's a time limit of like maybe 90 minutes, like the length of class. So you can start it whenever you want, but once you start, you'll have a time limit. And of course, if you have accommodations such that you require extra time, all of those accommodations will be automatically put in place. And so it's take home, it's open book. It'll be, yeah, about 90 minutes. No, it won't be all multiple choice. There's going to be multiple choice. There's going to be short answer and probably some true and false. Short answer will be about a paragraph. Maybe there'll be 5 or 6 of those. It's open book and take home, but because there's a time limit, you must study. I highly recommend studying before the test. I don't know how many questions there are in total yet. I probably won't tell you, actually. And yes, once you finish it, once you start it, you have to finish it in one go. You can't start it and stop and then pick it up again later. No, they're not proctored. The even the final exam, it's all take home. You don't need to download anything. You can just use Brightspace. So I'll have all of the instructions ready. Like when I have the test posted and there's the link, there'll be like a set of instructions there, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. But yeah, it'll be I'd say like probably like a mix of 20 multiple choice, short answer, fill in the blank, that sort of thing, and then 5 or 6 or sorry, a mix of 20 or so true, false, multiple choice, fill in the blank, a mix of that. And then 5 or 6 short answer questions where you have to like type out about a paragraph or so answering a question in your own words. No, there is no practice test. All right, better wrap up. Not today. I don't have time, no. But remember, remember, like, all these lectures are posted on YouTube. So if you need to review, like, they're all there. You can just watch them again. But basically, a synthetic proposition, the proposition is such that the predicate concept is not contained in the subject concept. So all bachelors are unmarried is analytic. So unmarried man, the predicate concept is contained in the subject concept, bachelor. Synthetic propositions are not like that. That would be like the pants are purple. Purple is not contained within the concept pants. Yes, this is why I recommend studying. You can't just go in blind. You need to refresh yourself on where the material is before you start. That's why I recommend you study. Anyway, maybe trying to identify basic beliefs is the wrong way to go about all of this, right? And there's an alternative to foundationalism where justification is really about how all of our beliefs are related to one another rather than having a foundational set of beliefs and building everything up off of those. And that is, of course, coherence theory or coherentism. And we'll discuss coherence theory next time, along with evidentialism, as well as the case for believing in things in the absence of evidence. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in. I will get this lecture uploaded to YouTube right away so that, if you guys want to start doing quiz review, all the materials will be up there. And if you have any questions, please let me know. So the quiz is the second week of October. It's all of this is in the course outline. So if you ever forget when anything is supposed to happen, just check the course outline. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. This was a fun one. I really enjoyed our discussion about the dress and about the nature of perception. Glad you understood this lecture. Yay. All right. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye for now.